Use Creative Drawings 11 to turn pictures or clip art into beautiful embroidery designs for your machine. You can use this either for pleasure, or if you need to create business logos, you can turn a picture into a beautiful embroidery logo. This is how easy it is to create a quick logo. I fetch the JPEG file that I require, and I'm going to tell the program to auto digitize, and then I'm going to set my color limit. Now all of this is explained in step-by-step videos that are supplied with the program for Sewncraft customers. So I hit trace, and there it is. So now what I'd like to do is I need to resize this, and I would like it to be 55 millimeters wide. The next thing that I would like to do is I'd like to add some text. So I can just type in the text that I require. And I can choose from any of the fonts that are already on my computer, and I can even import others if I need to. I can also change the size, make the font bold or italic, or bold and italic. I can place it in an envelope, but I would like to choose the on arc option. So there it is, on arc, and I can now move this arc around to the shape that I would like it to be. So I'm going to just pull that in, and there it is. So I'm happy with that. I'm just going to move that down a weeny bit, and there I have it. So now what I'd like to do is change the color of the font, and I'd like it to be the same color as the orange in the design, but I could also have gone to my color palette and chosen any other color. Now what I need to do is put a border around this, so I can simply go to my shapes, and then I'm going to just adjust that shape to the size that I like. I would like to have no filling in the shape, and I would like the outline to be black, but I would like the outline to be a satin stitch, and then I'm going to change the width of that outline. And now I can sit and adjust this to the size that I would like it to be, and that is my logo done. Now all of these steps will be explained slowly and in detail in the video training that is supplied with the program. Creative Drawings has a variety of tools as well as object properties that will allow us to either edit or personalize our embroidery designs. In this video I'm going to discuss just a few of those tools and properties, but all of the tools and properties are discussed in detail on the training videos that I've made that are supplied with the program. I would like to start editing my embroidery design, so I'm going to choose one of the pens that are available in the list of pens. So I'm going to just draw a simple line, then I'm going to add in a shape, so I'll add in a star, and then I'm going to add in some lettering. I would like the lettering to be on an arc, and then I'm ready to start applying some of my object properties. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my star, and I want to change the color. So I can go to my color palette and choose any one of those colors for the fill. I can see that it has a black outline, and I don't want it to have an outline, so I'll remove the outline. Then I'm going to go back to my properties, and I'm going to see here that this is a fill stitch and it's a step stitch, so I can now go and change that to any one of the patterns that are built in on the program. So I can choose any one that I like. Likewise with the line, If I go to the object properties, I can see it's an outline, and I have the choice of either a running stitch or a satin stitch. If it was a satin stitch, I would be able to change the width of that. If it was a running stitch, I would be able to choose from any one of these built-in styles. So you can change that running stitch to any kind of style. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go and apply some tools to these pieces that I've added. So the first tool that I'd like to show you is the Edit Nodes tool. Now, if I decide that my line is the wrong shape, I can adjust that outline by manipulating the nodes. Likewise, on a filled object, if I want to change the outline shape of a filled object, I can edit that by pulling a node. The next tool that I would like to look at is the Stitch Flow tool. So I can select the design that I want to change the flow of, and I can just pull that flow in any direction that suits me. I could also change some of my stitches from a satin stitch to a step stitch. And then what I can do is I could change the colors of each of these letters to different colors. I can also then go back to my object properties, and then I could also change the pattern of each of those letters to a different type of pattern. So if I zoom in, you'll be able to see that they are now all different. To the right of your design area, you're going to find a sequence manager, and this will show you the exact order that the machine is going to embroider in. So I can see that there is a star and an N that are the same color, so I could easily just move the N up to embroider after the star to minimize my color changes while I'm embroidering. Once I'm done editing and changing my design, I can then go to my slow redraw function, which is going to allow me to see how the design will embroider on my machine before I actually take it to my machine. Now you can slow or speed up the speed of that slow redraw. Creative Drawings also adjusts the number of stitches to the type of fabric that you have selected to digitize on. So if I go up to my fabric selection, I can see I have digitized this for a heavyweight fabric. Now if I look at the stitch count, it says it's an estimated count of 16,300. However, if I decide I want to embroider this on a golf shirt, I would select the appropriate category, say OK, and you'll see the stitch count will drop. So the number of stitches has been reduced to give a better effect on the golf shirt fabric. I can also change the background color of the fabric. So for example, if I was going to embroider this on a yellow golf shirt, I could select yellow and say OK, and then it will change my background to yellow. Then I could decide that perhaps I should change the colors of the yellow that is already in the design so that it would stand out a little bit more. Open a photograph as photo stitch. Now the program will use the same four colors as is used in a printer. So if you open your printer, you'll find you have those same four cartridges. So you'll just embroider using those four colors. You can also choose to embroider it as a monochrome image, so then it will only embroider in black. Open a photograph as paint stitch. Your picture is all ready just to save and embroider. Convert embroidery into cross stitch. And there it is. Create beautiful freestanding lace using shapes and filling them with net fill. These can be used to stitch together either as a doily or a table runner or a tray cloth, and the other shapes can be used as freestanding lace decorations. Turn embroidery into red work by clicking Convert to red work. Creative Drawings offers the option of converting a full line to a center line for text. Often when you create text, you'll find that the smaller you go with the text, the less legible it is once it's embroidered. So if I select this and I have a look at this, the height is 7.5 mils high, so that is less than 1 centimeter high, and it's only just over 3 centimeters wide. However, if it needs to go into a smaller space, I can resize that, but the smaller I go, the less legible it's going to be. At the moment, it's still perfectly legible, and there it's only just over 2 centimeters wide and 5 mils tall. So let's take it right down to just being about just over 3 millimeters tall and less than 1.5 centimeters wide. Now, often when you embroider this, it doesn't embroider out very nicely. So this is where you have the option of converting the full line to a center line. It will then embroider it as a straight stitch, which from a distance is way more legible than a satin stitch. Create beautiful monograms with or without borders using the monogram tool. Type in the text that you would like, choose the font you would like, and then choose a template that you would like it to follow. Then you can also, if you would like to have a border or a corner, you can choose from all of the designs that are available inside that category. You can even choose which corners would be visible and which would be invisible. Click OK and it's done. Creative Drawings has a tool called the Magic Wand that will allow us to create a new shape that is based on a shape that has one or more overlapping parts. So if I put the mouth opening on top of the lips and I move it around, you can see it is still an independent overlapping part. Now if I take my magic wand and I touch that on the lip section, then what it does is it duplicates that lip section, but it leaves out the overlapping part. So now I can change the color, I can change my stitch flow, and then I have a new shape that was based on the old shape. Now if I decide I have a shape like this that already has an existing gap or hole, then I can use the magic wand to fill that gap. So I can then go and change the color, and there I have that gap filled. Now if I move this piece away, you'll see that the hole is still there, but the new part fills it absolutely perfectly with no gaps. You can create your own designs for quilt blocks, etc., either by using the digitizing pen and drawing a shape of your own, or by going to the Tools section and inserting a symbol from the symbol library. Now there are many symbols to choose from, and I'm going to go down and select that one. So I insert the symbol, and then I'm going to just remove the fill, so I just have an outline. So as I mentioned, you could have drawn your own shape, or you can use an existing shape. So now I'm going to go to my array tool, and I can choose either circular or rectangular array, but I'm going to show you the circular array. Now what I can do with this is I can move that design in and out and switch it around. I can rotate it, I can mirror it. There are so many things that I can do to this. I can also tell it how many of those symbols I would like to have. So if I only wanted 6, I could choose 6. If I wanted 12, I could have 12. I can change the angles, I can clone the objects, But once I'm done, I just select apply, and there I have a brand new design that is based on that symbol. Now on this one here, what I did was I took the little pair of glasses that's inside that symbol, and then I just duplicated that a couple of times, and it's created the most stunning design out of a little pair of glasses. Create any closed shape, whether it's from the list of shape tools or a shape that you've drawn yourself. You can then fill that shape with a stippling stitch. The stippling stitch, instead of being a running stitch, can also be changed to any one of the other available stitch types. Over here you can get creative, and instead of having hair that is a step stitch, you could fill it in with a stipple stitch. Split large designs and then embroider them in multiple hoops using the multi-hoop function. When you need to embroider a batch of shirts with the same logo but different names, then it is easy enough to use the name drop function. A new window will open and you will type in the names. You can also import a list of names to make it easier. So the program will put all of the names one on top of the other on your computer screen, but when the information goes through to the machine, the first block will be embroidered on the first shirt. You would then insert the second shirt for the second block, the third shirt for the third block, etc. Drawings 11 Pro offers just over 200 built-in pre-digitized fonts for you to use. So in addition to the fonts that are already on your computer, you now have access to just over 200 extra pre-digitized fonts. Drawings Pro 11 also features a knife tool which will allow you to split a design into sections. So I'll draw a line where I would like to split this design, select the line and the portion that I'd like to split, and select the knife tool. So now this bottom section has been split from the top section. You can also use it not only in a straight line, but if you want to create a curved split, you can do that as well. Drawings Pro 11 also offers extra tools under the Stitch Flow tool as far as directions go. So instead of just changing the direction of your stitches, you can now curve the direction of the stitches as well. So now the stitches will follow that curve of the shape. This will give added interest to leaves and petals, as well as in this example with the bear in the rain. So if I want the umbrella to be slightly curved, I can then go and curve each one of those sections, just to give that little bit of added interest. Create beautiful spiral effects using the stitch flow and point directions in Drawings Pro 11. Create ray-like stitches using the point directions tool. So now we will have ray-like stitches coming from the outside in. The density of those stitches can also be adjusted by using the density adjustment tool. We can apply the point directions tool to the heart shape as well, and you can move that point direction tool to any position on your design. You can even divide the design and then add a point direction to the two separate sections of this heart to create really interesting effects. create blended colors by using the gradient tool. So I have used a pale color in this example and put a darker color on top of it, and then I have just adjusted the gradient percentage to create this effect. You can also take your stitch flow tool and change the flow of the stitches to create a multitude of different effects. Now this is particularly useful, for example, in this flower that I digitized. Instead of having just step stitch petals, I've applied the gradient to each one of those petals and blended the colors together just to give it that added interest. Use the ambience quilt function in Drawings Pro 11 to create stitching lines that will go around the edge of your design and will be repeated. So we will select ambience quilting. We can choose from either echo, scroll or stippling. You can adjust the size of the area to be quilted. You can also adjust the density and offset of your stitches. So there we have the echo quilting. Now we'll have a look at the stipple quilting. So we select ambience quilting and then just scroll down to stippling and say OK. So it is that simple to create stitches that will be repeated around the outside edges of an existing design for quilting block. You can take any shape that you like, whether it's from the shape tools or a shape that you have created yourself, and then you can fill that with a floral design. Now we can choose whichever floral design we like from the flower library, or you can import your own. Likewise with the leaves, you can choose any one from the library or create your own. So I'll choose that flower and that leaf and say OK, and that whole shape will now be filled with a floral design. That floral design can be manipulated, and there are lots of variations and things that you can do to create really stunning design. Create your own buttonholes using the buttonhole tool. You can stipulate the spacing as well as your slit length. So I'd stipulated the slit length as well as the spacing, and then you can also select the start style, the middle style, as well as the end style of your buttonholes. Create cutwork designs by using the cutwork tool. This is for people who own the professional machines and industrial machines that can take cutwork needles. Use a regular embroidery design and turn it into an applique embroidery design by choosing the applique option. That would be the fabric that would be behind the design for the applique. So we move it up to the first position with our sequence manager. Now once the fabric is in place, you can choose either to trim your fabric during embroidery, after embroidery, or if you're going to be using a pre-cut piece of fabric. You can also choose to fix those raw edges of the fabric either with a zigzag stitch, or you could use the E-stitch, or you could use a satin stitch to finish that off with. Drawings Pro 11 also has an advanced applique function where I can send the shape of this bear's face through to my cutting machine. So for example, I have the Brother Scan and Cut. I can send this information to the Scan and Cut, and it will cut my fabric out to this exact shape. So I would then choose, as far as the fabric trim option goes, the pre-cut option, because then I would simply take the cut piece of fabric, put it in position, and then I would simply just choose to finish it off either with a zigzag, an E-stitch, or a satin stitch. So that would mean I don't have to trim any fabric before embroidery or after embroidery, because I'll be putting my pre-cut piece of fabric onto my hoop. Drawings Pro 11 has an additional set of tools called techniques. Under these techniques, we have the option to take any of our designs and send them through to a cutting machine. We can also paint the designs because most cutting machines have pens with them, so you can actually send your design through to your cutting machine, tell it to draw with your pens and then cut it out, or you could use just the cut for applique. Obviously we can use the techniques for embroidery for our embroidery machines. We can use this also to create stencils. The other thing that we can do is use crystals in our designs, and we can also just choose to paint the design. For people who like to do fabric painting, you can use the program to design your designs for fabric painting and use those as your templates. So there are lots of options as far as those techniques go. Now the techniques have already been added to my toolbar. So the first one obviously would be an embroidery design because it's got a stepping stitch fill. The second one I have chosen to cut as a stencil, but I could just as easily choose to paint the outline and send that through to my cutting machine and even fill the inside with color and ask the cutting machine to first draw and fill in and then cut out for me. This third one, I've chosen the crystal option, so the outline has a row of crystals around it. So this information would get sent through to the cutting machine, and the cutting machine would cut all the little holes into a special piece of material that I would then put my crystals into. They would all get lifted together and ironed onto a garment or any other form of decor item that I choose to embellish with crystals. This one here is also crystals, but it has a fill of crystals as well. With the crystals, you can choose the type of crystal, you can choose the size of crystal, you can choose the color of crystals, and you can also choose how they fill that space. So there are a lot of options to choose from, and you can also adjust all the spacing. So the program having these techniques makes it very versatile for anybody, not just an embroiderer, to use this program.